are back with another Sweep the League Spotlight segment. We are spotlighting the NFL draft happening in April. And we're back with a very popular guy on Twitter, social media. It's the mock draft guy himself, Peter Andrisani here. Peter, welcome back, man. We're going to be talking about a guy who's kind of back and forth and more so on the going down the ladder trend, Brian Bresee out of Clemson, as well as some cornerbacks that we're heading into the draft. We're going to try to get some ideas on who's the best ones out there, maybe some sleepers out there for later round picks. But Peter, welcome back to Sweep the League. I appreciate you joining me again.
Good to be back, Rudy, man. This is something that I could really get used to. I really enjoy sitting down, talking shop with you, talking some prospects and just life in general, just like we did right before we started.
Yeah, that was crazy. So, before we actually started talking about football here right now, mock draft stuff, we were talking about weight loss. So you following Sweep the League lately, the guys have been giving me all this crap about stuff I used to eat. And one day I'll tell Peter, maybe if we have time at the end, I'll tell him exactly what one of my meals in a day was. And he might actually go, throw up afterwards because that's what everyone tends to do. But the one thing that will not make you throw up is Special Leaf Tea, guys. Go to the website, www.specialleaftea.com. Order your drinks today. Again, it's 100% all natural ingredients, no added sugar, energy boosting compounds without the use of caffeine. 4 great flavors. The original flavor, hibiscus blueberry, pomegranate blueberry, and tangerine ginger. www.specialleaf.com. All right, Peter, let's get right into it, man. Brian Bresee out of Clemson. So he's kind of that guy that started out hot at the beginning of the year. You had a lot of scouts, a lot of NFL, talent evaluators just looking at him saying, this is a guy that can definitely climb up the draft charts, that can definitely be selected in the top part of the first round of the draft. But there are still a lot of questions. He ended last year 18 tackles, 3 sacks. There's a lot more questions, I believe, with Bresee than there are answers. I'm actually starting to feel like a lot of scouts are seeing what you and I and other guys are seeing. Can you give us some background on Brian Bresee and how you see him going in this NFL draft?
When the whole process started, right away, defensive tackle 1 was a struggle between Jalen Carter and Brian Bresee. And, when you get down to it and you look into the tape and everything, I mean, there's a lot of things to like, first and foremost. He's got impressive stature. He's got amazing strength, more top-heavy strength than anything. But he could shed blocks laterally pretty well. But then there's a lot of things not to like. And I mean, the first thing that jumps out at you is his injury history. That's definitely the one thing that jumps out at you. Another thing as well is I don't want to say he's limited in his role at the NFL level, but I really can only see him succeeding in maybe like a 5 tech and a 3-4.
Yeah.
I've mulled over the idea of him being a 3 tech, like a more of a pass rushing defensive tackle, and a 4-3. I just really can't see it. I know we went through the same thing with Aaron Donald where, undersized weight wise, but at 6'5", 300 pounds, I'm just not seeing it. He seems better fit for a 3-4. And there's a lot of teams at the front end that really don't run 3-4s. I mean, I could see him the highest I could see him going at this point right now is probably to number 12 at the Houston Texans. And that's really just because of how abysmal the Houston Texans run defense has been the last couple of years. And they obviously need some interior pass rushing help. But, his pad height, he plays too high. As I mentioned before, he's got a very top-heavy frame. He's very strong, got really long, strong arms, which is a plus. But he doesn't play through his legs at all, so he could easily be just toppled over or pancaked for the most part. And, got to go back to the injury history. ACL tear for a defensive tackle is not something that I'm willing to sink a first-round pick into.
Yeah, that's a huge question mark right there when it comes to the ACL tear. And, a guy that you actually posted today about Hendon Hooker, QB, ACL tears for me, especially in college, going into the pros, it's so scary for me. And I'm not saying that you can never bounce back. We've seen many guys bounce back. Adrian Peterson comes to mind, having a fantastic year after he tore his ACL. But, still, a lot of these guys are not Adrian Peterson coming off of an ACL tear. And With Brian Bresee, I see exactly what you're saying, and that's why I say for me, it's more questions than answers. I think even if Houston at 12, there's still, if you don't see that defensive tackle or anybody like that there that you like, more than likely they're going to go with more offense, probably a big time wide receiver. They can probably even go with an offensive lineman to help them out there. They can even go cornerback, who we're going to be talking about a bunch of cornerbacks now. So Brian Bresee is kind of that mystery figure. I feel, you can maybe correct me on this, but I feel as we get closer to combine and also team workouts, pro days and everything, that we're going to see a little bit more in Brian Bresee. Do you think that coming into these workouts and everything that he could potentially get his stock back up to where it was at the beginning of all of this hoopla?
Yeah, I definitely think he can, and the reason why is because he's supremely athletic for the position. There's a lot to be said about that, but I've been pretty adamant and pretty vocal on Twitter saying my thoughts on the combine and pro day is that really we shouldn't be putting too much stock into any of that stuff other than game film. I mean, even with the Senior Bowl passing this past week, a lot of guys raised their stock, a lot of guys lowered their stock. At the end of the day, most of the practices are one-on-one drills. It's not realistic. And I feel like it's the same thing with the combine too. I mean, we're doing 3 cone drills, we're doing bench press. At the end of the day, if you could bench press 47 times at 225, that's great. But if you can't get past a guard or a tackle, I don't really care how strong you are. And I think we're putting way too much stock into combine statistics because, as I said to a Twitter user who asked me my thoughts on the combine, I said, we've seen athletic freaks become busts, and we've seen guys that don't perform well at all at the combine become superstars. And, you could say that for everything, but I feel like it's more often than not. And another thing that I think about, too, with the combine, I take Tariq Woolen, for example. I mentioned Tariq Woolen last time I was on as probably the only late round guy that I was right on in my life. And I said that Tariq Woolen was should have been a first round talent, early second round talent. And he lit it up at the combine. He absolutely killed it. And it should have rose his stock much more than the 5th round. And it never did. And everyone passed up on him at least once. Yeah. At least once someone passed up on him. And now look at him. So I think that, yes, to answer your question in a short form, is Brian Bresee, absolutely. He can go out there and tear it up. He could run a 4.7 for a 300-pound defensive lineman and set the world ablaze. I don't necessarily think it'll translate to on-field success.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. I love what you mentioned, especially about the combine and all these workouts, because it kind of does give false hope. You've seen more guys come out of these workouts, and I hate to bring him up, but Zach Wilson's one of them. Mm-hmm. I mean, just a freak on a workout, but then you get him in an actual NFL game, and it's like, where was this, or why didn't we notice this? It's like, you're right. You put too much stock into seeing a guy, quote unquote, work out. That's what it is, a workout. I mean, that's if I was to go back in my backyard, shoot baskets all day. If I'm making all of them, I'm having a perfect workout. I should be drafted, shouldn't I? But it doesn't work out like that. So yeah, we're going to see what happens with Brian Bresee, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Honestly, the sky's the limit. I mean, for every player out there, you could have the absolute worst workout. You could have the absolute worst season in college football coming to the NFLs, and you're a Hall of Famer within 2 years because you're putting up ridiculous numbers. We just don't know, and that's the greatest thing about prospects coming into the draft. Again, Special Leaf Tea, specialleaf.com, www.specialleaf.com. Go order your drinks today. We are here with Peter, the mock draft guy himself. Give you a couple of social media handles for him. Twitter, it's at mock draft guy YT. Hit up his YouTube, subscribe to his YouTube channel. Fantastic channel, amazing, at the Mock Draft Guy. Instagram, just go ahead and search the Mock Draft Guy. You can find him on there. I found him there recently and I added him. I had to do that ASAP because if not, I'd be missing on all of his great content. So those are all the social media handles that you can get him on. We're going to move right into cornerbacks here. Now, this is something that I recently talked to Daniel Kelly at a first round mock as well. And I mentioned this to him, and you and I have mentioned it so many times together. This cornerback draft class is loaded. And I'm talking when you've got some scouts out there and you've got some quote unquote experts out there that have a guy like Garrett Williams ranked lower than 15. that's kind of a problem for me. I love Garrett Williams.
Mhm.
So I mean, if you want to say 15, that's a steal for pretty much everybody in the draft. But you've got guys, Joey Porter Jr., Kelly Ringo, Christian Gonzalez, Clark Phillips. You got Devon Witherspoon, who's shooting up draft charts, and I'm
Yeah.
talking first guy off the board type speed that he's going on these drafts right now. But what I want to get into is this cornerback draft class. I want to hear your thoughts on it because everybody that's listening, I want them to know how special this cornerback draft class could be.
This year's class has the almost impossible task of trying to almost sort of kind of live up to last year. And last year wasn't particularly really that special after their first pro season. I mean, right away you think of the Tariq Woolens of the world, you think of the Sauce Gardners of the world, but that was supposed to be the stacked draft class from top to bottom. Now, I don't know how other people review the term stacked, but what I say stacked means is I can get a starter anywhere up and down the draft board. That is a stacked draft class to me. It doesn't have to be a superstar necessarily in the 7th round, but if I can get someone that could play a significant amount of snaps in the 7th round or all throughout the draft board, that's stacked to me. And this class, 100% from top to bottom, is stacked. I mean, you're looking at the top end talent. I mean, my top 5 guys in order, I would say it's very close for me at the top 5 with 1 and 2. I have Christian Gonzalez as 1A, Devin Witherspoon as 1B. Then I have Joey Porter Jr. at 3, Cam Smith at 4, and then I have Emmanuel Forbes at 5. And that's what I really want to start off with. Emmanuel Forbes is someone that has gotten no love in this draft process so far. He's flown completely under the radar as a 6'2", 200-pound cornerback that has played his entire career in the SEC, who has 14 career interceptions in 3 years and had a passer rating, I believe, last year in man-to-man snaps at it was something like 1.3 passer rating throwing against him, which is like almost perfect. Legitimately, like the most perfect you can get is 0, and his was 1.3. I don't know how that's possible, but he was absolutely unbelievable. And you have guys, that play in the SEC that are going to be draft picks. Right away you think Kayshon Boutte, you think Cedric Tillman, you think Jalen Hyatt. These are guys that he went up against that are going to be stars in the NFL. So it only leads me to believe that Emmanuel Forbes will be a star in the NFL. Now, I saw people saying, yeah, he could sneak into the first round. I think he's a lock to be a first round pick right now. I definitely towards the later rounds, but if the Cowboys are talking about, drafting Bijan Robinson as maybe like smoke and mirrors kind of pick, I could easily see them taking Emmanuel Forbes to be that other guy across from Trayvon Diggs. It's just, I'd really like to hear who you like in the middle rounds as well. There's just so many guys. We could sit here and talk for hours, and I'd really love to be honest with you, one day, just to sit and talk about this class, because I kind of feel the same way about the wide receiver class. Mm-hmm. I think the cornerback class is really the most stacked out of all the classes, but I mean, it's just value up and down the board. It really is. You can get a bona fide starter in like the 4th or 5th round. I mean, we're talking about guys like Darrell Luter, Darius Rush that could easily slot in as a number 2 or number 3 cornerback in the NFL, and these guys are projected to go in the 5th, 6th round.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was, getting at with you, is that this you may not find a superstar. Like, you may not find Revis Island or anything in this draft class, but what you will find are guys that are going to make Pro Bowls. That's for damn sure. You're going to find guys that are going to be starters. You're going to find difference makers, guys that are going to make a difference when you're going up against a Patrick Mahomes, with his arsenal. When you got a team like Cincinnati, if they end up keeping T. Higgins and they still got that wide receiver core right there, you've got guys that can match up really good with them. And like you mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, if you've got Emmanuel Forbes there sitting there, you have to consider taking him. Now, there's other guys. One guy that I like talking a lot about is Riley Moss out of Iowa. I've seen him play. I've seen the game film on him. He has some problems. I'm not going to lie to you. He's got issues, but I think with NFL, coaching staff and, just NFL training in general, Riley Moss could be one of those late round guys, mid round guys that you can get. And it's going to be, it's going to be a bona fide pick. He's going to help you win. Guy like Jalen Jones out of Texas A&M.
Oh, yes. Big fan of Jalen Jones.
Yeah. Great guy. Yeah. Great defender. One guy that you mentioned that I really, really love, and I'm curious to even see where he goes, is Darrell Luter Jr. Out of South Alabama. I am so curious on this kid because if it's me, I'm kind of like, can I pick him now? Can I pick him now? I mean, he's there. Can I pick him now? And it's like, where do you see him going in this draft? Because it happens to a lot of teams. You're like, you know what? We can wait because we're 30 picks later, 20 picks later. We can wait. He should still be there, and then he's gone. So a player like Darrell Luter Jr., where would you see him going in this draft? Because I have him mid draft right now, but I could see his stock rising again.
Yeah. Luter's an interesting case because I don't know if you watch, but like me, what I do with my free time is I watch Senior Bowl highlights, apparently, because that's all I did this past weekend was one-on-one drills. I found a great YouTube channel that posts every single one-on-one drill, and I sat on my couch like a potato and just watched hours of one-on-one drills. But Luter was the big winner for me. I mean, the hardest one-on-one drill in any practice, any Senior Bowl, whatever you want to call it, is the cornerback versus wide receiver. Mm-hmm. It has to be. You have no pass rush. You're looking at plays develop 5, 6, 7 seconds after the ball is snapped. That's impossible in the NFL. So these guys are defending with no pass rush and unlimited amount of time. And Darrell Luter was someone that just consistently played at a high level in the hardest drill in any drill I've ever seen in football. He blew me away, honestly. It was him. Anthony Johnson was another one that blew me away as well. Darius Rush, like I said, definitely improved his draft stock. But Luter was the big winner. I mean, I could see him with his intangibles and his instincts. I could see him going as high as the 3rd round right now. As to before the Senior Bowl, he was probably a late 5th, 6th round pick, and it can only go up from here. I mean, with a strong combine performance, he's going to be one to talk about for weeks to come, for sure.
So I'm going to give you one more name that I want to ask you on, because I feel he gets looked over a lot for whatever reason. I have no idea. I watched this team play because, being a Carolina fan, they do end up playing them from time, in the conference. But Garrett Williams out of Syracuse, I feel he's one guy that gets overlooked a lot. And a lot of people have said that, he's definitely top 100, prospect in the draft. He had a good season. It wasn't a great season. I believe he had 2 interceptions on the year. But again, it's kind of like Garrett Williams to me is one of those guys, that I think can make a difference on the right team. For Garrett Williams, where do you maybe see him going in this draft?
Garrett Williams, I'll give you. I'm with you, Rudy, because if we go back to my week 1 or week 2 mock draft from the NFL season, I have Garrett Williams as high as number 11 overall, and I firmly am on the Garrett Williams hype train. There's a lot to love, and one of the things that someone pointed out to me as well, or something that someone agreed upon with me, is Garrett Williams is a tackling machine. And he's a fantastic run defender as well for a cornerback. And that's something that you see, in guys in this class like Devin Witherspoon. Devin Witherspoon is 180 pounds, but hits like he's 280 pounds, and you're looking at guys from last year's draft like Sauce Gardner, like Cam Taylor-Britt, guys who are tackling machines that are excellent run defenders as well. And this is kind of where it gets tricky, because I mean, if I'm an NFL team and I see someone that had a cornerback that has as good a coverage skills as Garrett Williams has and is making 70 plus tackles a season, that's going to be a guy that's really high up on my board. I mean, I think as of right now, he's out of round 1 consideration. And that's because even though he had a strong showing this past season, it wasn't his strongest efforts. So I think maybe we're looking at early day 2. I'm thinking maybe if Arizona goes with offensive or defensive lineman in round one, we could see him go as early as, what is that, 34 or 35 right there. I think that would be maybe his ceiling. I would love to see him in the first round again. I would love to see him go to Cincinnati. I'd love to see him go to Dallas. Even love to see him go to Minnesota, possibly. But I think right now we're talking about early day two for Garrett Williams.
Yeah, I mean Garrett Williams, I think could sneak into that first round. And one team I had him in the first round with, and it's kind of one of those mystery teams where, well, does he make sense? To me, he kind of does. Is right there in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo would probably benefit from getting Garrett Williams late in that first round. I know they could definitely use some offensive line help. You're going to have some
Definitely.
you're going to have some great offensive line options there at the time, but I think a team like Buffalo might benefit from Garrett Williams, but then again, I would say second day, day two early, maybe mid second round. I'd be real surprised if he goes way past the third round. There's really no way he's past third round. I mean, third round was
Who
probably.
those GMs better start calling if that guy starts to slide. If he slides past 50, any cornerback needy team needs to start calling and just offer whatever they can to move up to that spot, because that's one of those guys. That's a guy that you could plug in. If you have a bona fide number one on one side of the field, I'm very confident in leaving Garrett Williams on an island on the other side for sure.
Oh yeah, I completely agree, man. So this cornerback class is just it is ridiculously stacked, man, and that's what we were getting at earlier. This is one of those drafts where again you're not going to get Hall of Fame talent. Let's be real. But when we're saying that it's stacked, you've got nothing but starters, and you're going to get starters throughout this entire draft when it comes to the cornerback position. Peter, I appreciate you giving us all the information on cornerbacks, as well as the mystery behind Brian Bresee, because like I said, he's one guy that started off hot on everybody's list. Everybody was looking at him. Now he's dropping, and he's dropping pretty quick. So we're going to see what happens come draft time. We're actually going to have Peter on with us a lot more here at Sweep the League. We're going to do a lot more coverage for the NFL draft, as well as, like I said, we're going to get him on an actual Sweep the League show, get him out of his comfort zone, which is talking NFL and mock drafts and prospects and all, and get him into what do we call? We have a whole new thing now. It's called Sweep the League: Life, Laughs, and Sports. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you might be getting yourself into, Peter.
Three things I love, Rudy, so I'm all for it.
Definitely we bring the laugh. So that's for sure. The life stuff is a little bit crazier. But I got a couple of minutes with you still. You and I were talking about weight loss. And
right.
Like I said, if it was no secret to those that have been here in Sweep the League, I've in the past 3 years, I've lost 260 plus pounds roughly. My highest was like 487, I believe. So I got pictures to prove it to everybody out there. I'm not, scamming nobody. And I didn't use any, any liquids or anything like that. It was just straight staples to the mouth and shut it and sew it. And that was it. So I was, eating through a tube for a long time there. But no, man. So one episode that we had, my producers, they were asking, what did you eat in a day? And I said, well, I ate different things daily. But I said, let me walk you through one day. So in Texas, you pretty much know Texas. We're known for breakfast tacos, like especially
Yes, sir.
San Antonio. So you said you were in Austin, I believe, one time, right?
Yeah. In September, I was in Austin.
Okay, so breakfast tacos galore, and don't you can't argue with me that San Antonio, Austin, who has the best tacos. It's gonna be San Antonio regardless. But anyway, I used to eat, man. Let's say on the morning drive, I'd go to a restaurant. I would get on an average of 5 tacos and a large lemonade. I mean,
Oh my God.
yeah, so that's already cringe-worthy there. Go to lunch at 11 o'clock and I hit up a Wendy's. I tell everybody this. I'll hit up a Wendy's. I'd get a either a baconator, which is the double meat, or the double meat cheeseburger meal, large fry, large Coke, and I'd get 2 orders of the 4-piece nugget and 2 double stacks. That was my lunch, dude.
Oh my God, dude.
So you're talking calorie city, brother. So I'd get off work at 5. On the way home, I'd hit up McDonald's and get me 2 double cheeseburgers with Big Mac sauce. And,
Oh.
maybe a 10-piece nugget, and I'd go home with that in my car, get home, sit down and eat dinner. Yeah. I told you were going to get sick if I told you this on air.
Wow.
I told you.
I did that actually last week one time. I was working overtime at my job, and I was just fiending for a Popeye's chicken sandwich. And it was like I was getting off of work at 7:30, and it was already like maybe like 6:45. And my girlfriend was already making dinner. She was making steaks. And I was just like, you know what? I cannot go home unless I have a sandwich. And I got a sandwich. I got the mac and cheese on the side, a large Dr. Pepper. And I ate that whole thing in like 30 seconds. And I went home. I got my car, went home, and had a New York strip. And I just felt like the worst human being on the planet. It was the worst decision I ever made.
Wow. See, and that's not that bad, because I mean, you didn't do it daily, did you? That was like one time, or maybe
I vowed after that. I said I'd never do that again. It was a terrible feeling,
brother. That was every day, Monday through Friday for me.
Wow, man.
Not those exact meals, but those exact type of meals per se, not the exact locations every time, but I mean, and then getting home with my wife, or my wife made pasta with spaghetti was my favorite. It still is. I haven't eaten spaghetti in 3 years, man. But sitting down I'd get a mountain of spaghetti, and that was one serving. I'd get another mountain of spaghetti, and I would drown it with like a gallon of tea sometimes. I mean, I can't even count the calories, bro. I can't. I probably had enough calories for a lifetime in a week. So
I think I know I said it before we started recording, but man, like at that weight, and what do you do? And you just said, screw it. I'm just going to stop. And you made it an unbelievable turnaround. Like I said before, I said, I see weight loss journeys on Twitter all the time, and I've never seen anyone come close to 260 pounds in a weight loss journey. And you're still going strong, dude. It's like one of the most admirable things. First off, Twitter is just a toxic wasteland, and to see things like that, it's something that more people need to see, and it's incredible, dude. You deserve all the credit in the world, and then some.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, and if my journey can help somebody else out there, by all means, contact me. You can hit me up on Twitter at Sweep the League. You can find me on Facebook, Rudy Campos Jr. I mean, I'd love to talk to people. I've given talks to local schools that have weight loss groups and stuff, and crowds of 20 up to 50 people, and talking to them and being like, if I can do it, and I always hear you, oh, well, if you can do it, I can do it. I always hear that. Well, no, truthfully, if I can do it, because it's literally cold turkey eating, not drugs or alcohol. It's cold turkey eating, which is absolutely the hardest, because when you stress eat. And that was my thing, stress eating. So definitely, I appreciate the good words, man. I'm excited to be here. Hopefully, I'm still here long enough to keep doing this with you for years and years, because you're still a young one. I'm the old one here. Chances are I'm gonna get super, super old while you're still super, super young. So I want to do this for many more years with you, man.
Yeah, I listen, like I said before, you might be 17 years older than me, but man, I sure feel it right now. I mean, at only 26, I'm probably feeling 46 right now. And I know that doesn't sound great, but when you get up and down out of manholes every day, it really has a toll on you. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, you saying that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on our next sponsor being Ben Gay or something like that. So for all of the aching bones that you and I have, or maybe some Tylenol or something. But hey, for the mock draft guy himself, Peter Andrisani here, this is Rudy Campos Jr. Until we sweep the league again next time, and we talk to Peter more about the upcoming NFL draft, we will let you know when that happens again with Peter and myself. Again, specialleaf.com. Go get your teas today. So Peter, again, thank you for joining us. Until we sweep the league again next time, we'll see you soon.